Illustrator has lots of interesting effects which we can use to distort the original shape of objects in different ways. So we'll start off with the flower. I'm going to zoom in on that flower, and I'm going to double click the flower to enter isolation mode. This is a grouped object, and I only want to work on part of it. So I've double clicked the object. We're now in isolation mode, and I can just click the large orange circle now. Now from the Properties panel, I'll click the Effect button. It's an FX button there, and I'll go down to Distort and Transform, and then over to Pucker and Bloat. And in the dialog box that appears, I'll click the preview so that we can see what's going to happen. You can move that slider left and right to see how this is going to work, but I'll just move the slider over to about 35%. That's a little bit more than I wanted. I'll move it over to 35%. And there it's kind of created 4 petals for us. That's what the Pucker and Bloat does, but play around with that if you like. I'll just double click away from the flower to exit isolation mode. And now I'll go to the days per year flags. Move over here. I think I'll have to zoom out a bit. There they are, the days of the year flags. And I'll click to select the top flag shape. And then I'll click the Effect button, the FX button in the Properties panel, and again choose Distort and Transform, but this time I'll choose Twist. And I'll just click the up arrow on this, click the preview, and you can see how it slowly changes the flag to a kind of twisting motion. I'll set the angle to 20. You might try something else if you like. Now I'm going to shift click the rest of the banners to select all of them. Click the first one, hold down shift, click, click, and click. So that now selects all the rest of the banners. And now I'll go up to the menu to Effect, and then Apply Twist. So that now applies it to the rest of the little banners there. So that was an easy way to do that. Now, let's work on using the free transform tool, which can create some really interesting perspective effects. I'll move over here so we can see this. It's kind of like a road map. A road sign here with east and west and north and south. With the selection tool, I'll click to select the shape east-west. And then behind the puppet work tool, I'll select the free transform tool. And that brings up some tools here. It's a free floating toolbar. I'm going to move it closer to the sign here so that I can more easily use it. So we can see we've got a number of different tools we can use here with the free transform. I'm going to select the Perspective Distort option in the free transform widget. And I think it might be easier to turn off the smart guides so nothing snaps to anything. And then I'll position the pointer over the lower right corner of the bounding box. And when I see the pointer change to that kind of perspective-like icon, I'll drag down a little. Let's see. Oh, I don't have the... It must have changed the selection there. I need to go back and select the perspective distort option. I thought I had that selected at first, but I didn't, so I'll have to go back, make sure there it is. And now I'll just click, hold, and drag that down a little bit. And you can see it's kind of distorting the far end. And when I release the mouse, it looks like it's receding into space in a kind of perspective. I'll deselect that and it'll look a little bit more apparent. And there you can see it looks kind of like it's receding to the left there. I'll select the other part of that sign and do the same thing. Make sure I've selected the perspective distort option in the free transform widget. And this time I'll do the lower left-hand side and just drag down a little bit. And when I deselect it, we can see that it is creating a kind of perspective effect. The larger part of that sign appears to be closer to us, and the smaller part appears to be receding into space. So next we'll add another effect to this sign by shearing the object. And shearing slants or skews the sides of an object along the axis we specify. And it will increase the perspective effect in this instance. I'll select the group north-south, and then I'll select the shear tool, which is nested within the scale tool. So I'll get my shear tool there. And I'll move the cursor off the right side of the group and press the Shift key to constrain the artwork to its original width and drag up just a little bit. And you can see it's skewing it a little bit. It's now behind the other sign, but we'll fix that in a little bit. Now, I'll select the east-west shape. And go back to my shear tool. And I'll press the Shift key, and I'll drag off the right side of the group, and I'll drag it down just a little bit. So you can see it's kind of, not only is it receding, these shapes are receding into perspective, they're also sheared a little bit, which gives them much more dimension. And so we've kind of screwed things up a little bit, but we can kind of fix this by bringing some of these elements forward and rearranging the percentages so that they line up nicely. So I'll select that one shape and go to Object, Arrange, and bring to front. I need to select the south part of it. They were separate objects, Object, Arrange, and bring to front. And so now it's kind of in front of the other one. It's looking a little odd, and we'll have to play around with it a little bit. But I think you get the idea of how these tools can really help us create a more realistic looking shape that recedes into the perspective, into the distance, and kind of creates an interesting effect. So these are some of the various things that we can do to make our artwork look a little bit more interesting and realistic. So I'm just going to play around with these objects to kind of get them to look right. But I think that's all I'll do for now. And those are some really interesting effects that we can use in our artwork.